I mean, this has been covered pretty extensively. I mean, it's really not like
Nicole,
Leahy has gone
did it
on and
pass the
said,
Senate? Did Schumer call it up for consideration in the Senate, and did it pass? Yes
when
or
the
no?
Republicans said in the House that they would not put it up, and the Republicans in the Senate then backed
Oh,
out.
it's Republicans' fault.
Okay. Yes, it's time for our regular look in on the race for the White House, our US debate. And joining me today are the Democratic strategist Nicole Brener Shmitz and the former Republican Congressman Bob McEwen. Hello to you both.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Indeed. We're in different time zones, aren't we? Right. Let's start talking about the front page of the Financial Times today. Has a very interesting headline. Harris leads Trump on the economy in poll that marks a sharp sentiment shift. Is that how you're seeing it, Congressman McEwen?
Well, yes, anything new on the shelf is always exciting, and I'm sure that she's got a blip, but I think as we look at the conditions of the country, 7.7% growth and 1.4% inflation when Biden and Kamala took office, and then where we are today, I think that it'll settle down. But it's a happy time for them, and they'll have another week of it at the convention.
Nicole, just a blip, though?
No, I don't think it's just a blip. I mean, we've seen this enthusiasm around her candidacy continue to grow. We're seeing polls tighten in key swing states, and importantly, polls like this on where people feel like what their concerns are, the economy, some other really important issues, women's reproductive rights, and who they think is the best person to lead us forward. We're going to go into the convention next week, and it's going to be time for the Harris Walz ticket to tell America this is what we are going to do for the next 4 years. And certainly she's going to make a case about some things that this administration has done that she's proud of, the low unemployment rates, a lot of what they've done for organized labor. And then they're going to talk about their plan for the future and why they're the best. I think it's been great that it's a short campaign. I would like us to have this be the way we do it all the time now. Let's not allow presidential campaigns to be 2 years long. But I think it's going to be a dogfight no matter what.
And in that dogfight, Bob McEwen, it does seem as if Donald Trump is flailing around a bit in terms of his lines of attack on Harris, isn't he?
Well, he does seem to run against opponents, and it's been successful for him. So what he needs to do, I think, is focus on what the American people focus on, and that is, what were the conditions of our cities? What was the condition of our borders? What was peace and prosperity at the time that he was in office versus what we're doing at the moment? But he's not a politician, never has been. I don't think he ever will be. And he attacks his opponent. And of course, he has a real frustration that the authoritarian Democrat Party came up with this idea that they would sue him personally in all these various jurisdictions in time to try to convict him before the election. We've never done that. Third world we've never behaved that way before. And so naturally he has a little burr under his saddle. And I think that as we see the courts are cleaning that up, they didn't do it in time for him to be on appeals to be overturned. Any convictions that he has, that'll be done early next year. But they timed it so that he would be convicted just before the election, and yet the courts have been throwing them out. And so he has this fight against those that have tried to subvert our political system. And he needs to focus more on the fact that what was the condition of our country for their streets, the homelessness, the chaos on the borders, the military chaos around the world where the United States people don't know where we are or where they can trust us, that we need to restore our position to leadership. And that's what he provided, and that's what he's loved for.
What do you say to that, Nicole, that there's been a politically motivated assault on Trump through the courts, which is basically failing?
We have an excellent judicial system in this country, and it was put forward, and he had a jury of his peers. We have a system here where nobody, no matter if you've been the president of the United States or not, is above the system. No one is above the law here. So it's going through the courts. He's been seen by a jury of his peers, and America is going to have an amazing chance to participate in our experiment we call democracy once again in November. And I am hopeful that both parties will accept election results that are clearly fair. But I think that the burr that's gotten under his saddle is, I like that term, I'm going to steal that, Congressman, has certainly been the size of Harris's crowds. I mean, he just lets these little things seem to bother him, and they're seizing on that because he's spending time talking about that sort of nonsense, and Harris and Walz are spending time in the swing states telling the American people their plan for the economy, and for the border and for the other things that Americans are saying that they care about and want to see how can they make sure that they're able to raise their families in a safe place and get their kids a good education and take a vacation and have a pension.
Now, the size of crowds is very important to Donald Trump. Those of us remember his inauguration, remember his argument about whether more people had turned out for his inauguration than for Barack Obama's, and I was there at both, and they clearly hadn't. But Kellyanne Conway talked about alternative facts. Nicole, could you explain this latest row over crowd sizes for Kamala Harris?
I mean, I just think it gets to the narcissism that's there. It's an unbelievable amount of time that they're spending talking about it, both typing on social media and Twitter and trying to take pictures. And
what's the claim?
He's claiming that their Kamala's crowds aren't as big as they're saying they are. They're claiming that his are actually bigger. I mean, it's so silly. But if that's what he wants to spend time talking about, the Democrats will continue to welcome that.
What do you make of this row over crowds? I mean, it looks to anyone trying to assess the facts that he's just plain wrong, Congressman.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that the crowds are massively larger for him, if that's the key
for him rather than for Kamala Harris, because
there's no comparison. Yeah, there's twice as many people outside as events as can get in. But what he really needs to understand is that those crowd sides are always that way for national candidates. I mean, you can take Wendell Willkie in the 1940s, and Roosevelt and beat Landon. You can see as far as the eye can see in downtown Chicago or downtown New York. And so when you have the national candidate, they had over 100,000 in Little Toledo, Ohio, for Dewey in 1948. So that's the size of the crowd. There will always be large crowds for the national nominee. I think perhaps he looked at it in comparison. Well, poor old Biden. He could barely fill up his circles in 2020 when they had you had to stand 20 feet apart. So I think he's disappointed when he actually has an opponent that can fill an arena. But that's the way it is in the past. Now, and there's so much more important, as you know, that the border. America's taking in more people than the entire world combined. People are sleeping on our streets, things that we've never gone through before. The chaos that this country's enduring at the moment, we need to focus on that.
And Nicole, just on that border question, there does seem to have been quite significant hardening by Kamala Harris on her approach to border crossings. Has there not?
Yeah, there has been, and we saw Biden institute some new executive orders in the past few months, and we also saw the Democrats saying in this administration, Kamala Harris included, saying we'll sign this border deal that was negotiated between Senator Lankford of Oklahoma, one of the more conservative senators in the country, and the Democrats, and then Donald Trump saying, nope, don't send them that bill, don't actually vote for that Republican Party because we don't want them to have a win. And I mean, that's just the ultimate playing politics with the policy instead of doing what's going forward. It was a very conservative bill. Democrats were completely willing to take the vote and to send it to the administration to sign it. So, Kamala Harris has said, hey, we would have supported that. That's what I will do going forward as president. So she's taking the issue head on. We're seeing her run ads both on digital and TV about immigration right now. It's a smart thing to do, and not running them with fear at the center.
Now,
but here's how we're going to go forward and make policy.
Congressman?
I'm sorry, Adam, let me just respond to that. The fact of the matter is that she's been in charge of the border the very first day, and I've been there many times. The very first day, they did away with all of the restrictions. They opened it up. They turned off the Klieg lights so you could see the people. They opened the gates. You talk to anybody who's on the border and it seems what has happened. You can see all of the passports and the information across the river where they dump it all and they come over and then they make up the names and things. So we see all of that happening. And people ignored it. The press ignored it for 3 years until finally, when they started showing up in our airports, sleeping in our train stations, sleeping in the subway, sleeping on, then they had to address it. And what they said is, well, we have a bill that would fix all that. There is no such thing. There was a bill that passed the House of Representatives, was given to the Senate, and the Senate has refused to consider it because it's under Democrat control. This bill that Nicole just referred to, there is no such thing. It never passed the Senate. It never passed anywhere. It was
Well, that was because of Republicans, wasn't it? They didn't pass.
No. The Democrats control the Senate. The Democrats have the majority. The Democrats decide what comes up, and they didn't even pass it to the House to even vote for it. This is merely a political tool, and that's where Donald Trump needs to say what he says, and then we need the press to be honest about it, that they did not pass any bill that supposedly the Democrats would sign. Well, the first thing they should do is write it and pass it.
It's written. That's the good news. It's written. That's the great thing about
Well,
it.
you've
Is that
seen
they
it,
wrote it,
but none of the rest
and
of us
then
have.
I mean, this has been covered pretty extensively. I mean, it's really not like
What, did it
has gone on and
pass the
said,
Senate? Did Schumer call it up for consideration in the Senate, and did it pass? Yes or
when the
no?
Republicans said in the House that they would not put it up, and the Republicans in the Senate then backed out.
It's the Republicans' fault.
Okay.
You got it.
Well, we're going to have lots more of this between now and November the 5th, but thank you very much indeed to Democrat strategist Nicole Brener Shmitz and also the former Republican Congressman Bob McEwen.